ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. I apologize about the previous, there was a little bit of technical problem. Well, anyways, we are delivering news from Southeast Asia, and today is Friday. However, there is a breaking news all the way from Tunisia that there was museum attack, and that they killed around 19 people, and around 3 suspects was sorted out. The gunmen killed 19 people and sent tourists scrambling for cover in a siege in a museum in Tunisia's capital, which was just a couple of days ago. And this incident went viral again, and because it was another attack, and it just happened that the attack was in Tunisia, and it was almost midday, and it was a new blow to the tourist industry that is vital to Tunisia, the country itself. Well, the country was struggled to consolidate the only transition to democracy after the Arab Spring revolts. And in fact, Tunisia is the Arab world's most successful democratic country, and it recently completed its first free presidential elections and a peaceful rotation of political power. So the question here is, who is behind this attack on the Wednesday? And then what's the agenda behind this attack particularly? And also Prime Minister Habib Isset said that the security forces had killed 2 gunmen inside the museum, but that 2 or 3 accomplices might still be at large. And around 17 foreign visitors, those including Polish, Italian, Spanish, and German tourists, as well as the Tunisians, and one of whom was a member of security forces, had been killed in the attack. So this Tunisia attack is going very, very viral, and it's very controversial at the moment. And the scene play out at a popular tourist destination in the heart of Tunisia's capital. And the tourists were frightened for sure, and they were running in the different directions. They opened the doors and they got them to enter the parliament. So, like I mentioned, the question, who is exactly behind the attack? The museum, which was housed in 19th century palace, it was called as the jewel of Tunisian heritage. And there was lots of exhibitions have been held to showcase the Tunisian art, culture, and history. And yet, no one immediately claimed the responsibility for the attack. But it happened ironically and apparently just days after the Tunisians jihadists tweeted that the pledge allegiance to ISIS leader, whose name is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, was coming soon. So according to his message, the jihadi claimed to belong to Jun al-Khalifa in Tunisia, the group that in December pledged allegiance in ISIS. So there could be a possibility that it's also the ISIS agenda again, and that the attack was pretty violent. And Tunisia, there are a lot of Tunisian people going to ISIS for the extreme attack, and this raises the possibility that, like I mentioned, this museum attack could be ISIS debut on the Tunisian stage, and it is the time to precede the pledge of allegiance from Tunisian jihadists for maximum impact. And just to go back to the past story before, back to February, The country's interior ministry announced that the arrests of about 100 alleged extremists and also published a video showing that the group possessed a formula for making explosives and also photographs of ISIS leader. But Tunisia is where the Arab Spring took root in December 2010. And then this poor 26-year-old man set himself on fire in front of Tunisian government building after police confiscated his vegetable cart. And this protest brought out throughout the Middle East and North Africa soon followed, with revolutions toppling governments in some countries. So this violence was going on since 2010, and there was another violence and instability that continued to shake Egypt, Libya, and Syria in many ways. And the economists going so far as to naming the country of the year for 2014. So there was a little bit of incidents here and there, but now going back to this museum attack, we really need to know who's behind this attack. However, it is only that we can suspect so far. There are still investigators studying this accident, that who's really behind this attack, and also how many people are hurt other than the 19 people. So we'll do some update from next week. And the other news is all the way back to our country, Malaysia. The Kelantan passes Hoodoo Bill amendment, and it was unanimously done. The Kelantan State Legislative Assembly passed the amendment to the Syria Criminal Code 2nd 1993. It was amended in just this year, and with an unanimous vote of 41 lawmakers present. So, is the Hudud law constitutional? Or they passed a similar Hudud law back in around 90s. And then what happened back then and why it was still being implemented? The implementation of Sharia law in Kelantan would begin in stages, starting with educating and enlightening the people on the implementation of Islamic law. And there are 7 key aspects of the laws. Among the others were increased rotan lashes up to 100 for illicit sexual intercourse, consumption of intoxicating beverages, theft, and robbery, and also for the law to be enforceable in Kelantan. The Sharia Courts, or we also call it Criminal Jurisdictions Act 1965, and also Article 76A of the Federal Constitution has to be amended. So there are a lot of discussions and also lots of argument going on that it will somehow divide the Malaysians somehow, and also a lot of other aspects coming on. And the clause on the option for non-Muslim to be tried under Sharia or civil laws is repealed, so non-Muslims are not affected by it apparently. So we'll just take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about other news mainly from regarding GST and also Indonesia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And here you're with still me, Grace. And let's come back to Malaysia to talk about the most heated topic, which is GST, which will be taking place on the 1st of April. And this goods and services tax has brought a lot of conversation among public, and also the public awareness from the government was quite successfully done to bring out the awareness and the curiosity among the public to be able to send out the right information. And this is for sure the government is not planning to postpone the implementation date, as around over 3 million companies have been registered under GST. And this shows that business in general are in already ready for the implementation, and there are even the advertisement and also YouTube videos going quite viral regarding GST and which items will be affected and which items are not. And this aim was also to ensure that they received accurate information on GST. And on the layman level, that a lot of people are quite aware of how GST is going to affect it. However, there is still a need to be done for such as training programs that needs to be held, and also the continuous effort by the government to educate the business and the public on the new tax, because this new taxation system in Malaysia, a lot of people did complain, and still the complaint is going on, that GST and also with the high living cost in Malaysia, it's even increasing more and more. That with implementation of this GST system will even make them struggle even harder, and there are bound to be problems with the transitional issues in the initial stage. And according to the government, any issues that surfaces will be dealt with comprehensively and continuously by the government. And GST will begin on April 1st as decided, and any delay would also cause a negative impact on Malaysia's credit rating, because the GST implementation is a step forward to fiscal consolidation and also is crucial to ensure the country's economic strength. So we really hope that GST, compared to other countries, the implementation of GST in Malaysia is very light. However, well, the government did give these few warnings and also information of GST. But whether it's wise or correct or step forward or not, we really need to see whether there is a help to economic strength. And just to add on to this GST implementation, there is a news about the current affair and also new fare in the transport system. And very soon, taxi fares will be readjusted on Thursday, pretty soon from next week, and with budget taxis, and in the Klang Valley especially, to change 25 cents every 200 meters. So this according to a Land Public Transport Commission fact sheet. The rate for the budget taxi nationwide will remain at 3 ringgit. But the distance and the time rate will be revised. So this is a very coincident sort of a spike just before the GST implementation. And just to compare, the distance fares will increase from 10 cent for 150 meters to 25 cent per 200 meters. And the express buses, on the other hand, will see its current fare increase from 9.3 cent per kilometer to 11.4 cent per kilometer from May 15. And the new fare structure is expected to coincide, like I mentioned, with its GST implementation. However, the fares of airport and executive taxis remain unchanged. So apparently, there are more than 60,000 taxi drivers in the Peninsula Malaysia. And in 2013, the survey estimated revenue in this sector to be around 960 million ringgit. And also, according to the SPAD, the last taxi fare review was carried out around in 2009. So with this public transport, the fare increment and also the GST implementation, it is something that public really would love to support, or with public transport is also becoming very expensive to all those low-income family and also the middle-income workers. What is the benefit of this society after all this implementation going on? So the questions are still remained unanswered, but however, we'll see how it goes like. And then just to travel to the Indonesia, well, between Indonesia and Australia, there was ongoing issues regarding this drug trafficking and also the capital punishment that was announced by Indonesian President Joko Widodo. And 2 Australian drug convicts on death row in Indonesia will not be executed this month, and also it will be postponed their appeal hearing against the rejection of a request. So the Australians, Miran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan, have already been transferred to the prison island where the executions would take place. And the 2 Australians are among the group of 10 drug convicts due to be executed together. And there are others in the group include the citizens of France, Brazil, and the Philippines, Ghana, Nigeria, and also Indonesia. And Australia has been, of course, pursuing continuously on this 11th hour campaign to save the lives of the 2 members of the so-called Bali 9, we call it. But however, the President Joko Widodo has refused to budge and also to come up with sort of a common ground to have the solution together. But the hearing for both cases has been delayed until March 25th for our side to submit the evidence. So March 30th will be their turn. So Indonesia has pretty harsh penalties for drug trafficking, and they resumed executions in 2013 after 5 years gap. And the 5 foreigners were among the 6 people executed in January. In fact, and the first execution since President Widodo took office in October. So yes, in fact, this is very harsh, and also some are not acceptable in other countries. However, we already know that how supportive the Indonesian were towards this capital punishment. So right, we'll take another short break, and then when we come back, perhaps we'll talk a bit about ASEAN this time.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. So, before we talk about ASEAN, there is a news about this female prime minister, and I'll let you guess here, who actually became the first female prime minister in this country when she led this party to the victory in the July 2011 general election. And apparently she did remain in the post for nearly about 3 years until the Constitutional Court forced her to step down in early May 2014. And also this year, on January 23rd, there was the military-picked legislative assembly voted to impeach this lady for the reliction of duty over this controversial subsidy scheme, which paid farmers above the market rate for rice. So she is the Thailand's first prime minister, Yingluck Shinawatra, and according to the news reported, apparently because of her controversial and abusing of her power, the Thailand Supreme Court has ordered this former prime minister to stand trial for negligence over this rice subsidy scheme especially. So now she's apparently will be facing a maximum prison sentence of 10 years. And this is the latest decision to the dominance of the Shinawatra's family in Thai politics, and her government was ousted before the military took control in the coup in May last year. And also, like I mentioned, in January was another controversial issues regarding this rice subsidy scheme. So this judges has decided that this case falls within their authority and that they accept this case. And also the scheme paid rice farmers in the rural areas. So this Sinawatra support base twice the market price for their crops, and the program that cost the government billions of dollars. So that was quite unethical, and thus the decision was made to this former prime minister. So there was definitely the split in the popularity when she was voted to become the first prime minister between the rural areas and also middle classes. And she didn't carry out the promise that she made, and also to the expectation of the public. And was she really just trying to garner more likes among the rural areas, or was she really involved in the rice scandal, to be honest? So because of this controversial and the scheme that cost the government billions of dollars, and it was the factor in the street protests that led to the ousting of this Miss Yingluck's government and the subsequent military coup. And to be honest, she's actually quite loved in the rural north for their populist politics, but hated by the country's elite, who accuse of them of corruptions. So there is definitely the division between this poor and the rich, and also the city and the rural areas towards the support of this former prime minister in Thailand. But moving on to talk about the ASEAN. ASEAN is in fact urged to speed up this COC deal which was made. And can ASEAN actually even agree maturely on the COC, since each member state has different foreign policy towards the South China Sea? And would the US be meddling into this matter? Because apparently these members of ASEAN are expected to step up negotiations for the completion of the Code of Conduct, which is called COC mentioned, on the South China Sea territorial disputes. And the Justice Antonio DiCaprio, the senior associate of the Supreme Court of the Philippines, told that the Philippines should continue to push for the acceleration of the drafting of COC during Malaysian ASEAN chairmanship this year. And they also think that Malaysia has taken more proactive stance, and from that they have read recently that Malaysia wants to pursue the drafting during its chairmanship. But would China accept this code of conduct, since it stated that China is willing only to do the bilateral dispute settlement? So some says they cannot rely on the COC because China is saying that it will sign the COC at the appropriate time, but they really don't know that when that will be. So they have to perhaps change, or they have to have their own approach to this matter. And the Philippines is keenly aware of the importance of addressing this issue through peaceful negotiations, but still it initiated a compulsory dispute settlement procedure. And of course, it's very obvious that China can accept this. These long-term issues regarding the South China Sea is very only increases the tension between the China and other country in the ASEAN. And because of the firmness of China towards the decision, it's very hard to come up with a settlement. And then as long as ASEAN wants to push forward to overcome this issue, but it's really, really hard. Well, that's it for the news commentary today at Durian ASEAN. Don't forget to download our TuneIn app and to listen us at Durian ASEAN. And also before that, we have our website www.durianasean.com, and we do have our social media such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and look for us at Durian ASEAN. And have a good Friday, but stay tuned for the next section at Anything Can Happen Friday.